So how did the two of you link up?
Yeah, so there was meetings organized that brought together, people from all types of all walks of life in the Palisades and different community groups. Me being on the park advisory board and on our baseball association board, I was invited to those meetings. You had everyone from Friends of the Library to Resilient Palisades. Tracy Park came.
Mm.
Steve Soberoff was there. I believe the mayor was there at one of them initially. She definitely had some representatives there. And so, yeah, that's where I met Frank at the first one. He came up to me and, said, I'm trying to work on some AI solutions possibly for the rebuild and,
Hmm.
kind of was thinking way ahead in advance of what's going to happen for the rebuild and what he could do to help. And so we met from there, and we we just kept in touch and started talking and went to multiple of these types of meetings. But it was after a few of these meetings that we were just both shared the frustration of nothing really getting accomplished, just a bunch of people sitting around a table talking.
So I'll just give you a quick snapshot of my perspective when it started out. So I had worked a little bit with the Pacific Palisades Community Council from time and here and there, primarily for like security related solutions for the community, because I had a business that was in that related industry. But anyway, so when this happened, the woman that ran that group reached out, and so I found myself in these meetings with a lot of people, and the topics would range, from construction to insurance to logistics to, all types of things. And anyway, there were a lot of folks in the room, and with all different types of ideas. And to your point, I met Kambiz, and I was like, okay, this seems like a like-minded person. I'll be honest, a lot of the ideas were a little bit off the wall, which was good because we were trying to think outside the box and, trying to solve a problem that no one had been confronted with, right? So it was good to have like a safe environment so that, no idea was a dumb idea kind of thing. But
Hmm.
anyway, there were some very dumb ideas.
Okay,
But
so now,
Can
so
you share
now,
a couple?
so what were some of the things that maybe weren't the dumb ideas, but were the things that didn't seem to make a lot of sense?
primarily we were talking about construction, manufacturing, um, logistics, things that maybe a city might orchestrate, or a local government, um, or someone with deep manufacturing expertise. And the reality was most of the people in the room did not have that expertise.
Mm.
So you were getting ideas that were kind of like, they were coming from people that didn't really have industry expertise or product knowledge. So they were well intended, but there's still an idea of wanting to build a concrete manufacturing facility, a concrete plant in the Palisades. We've
Hmm.
talked about bringing barges. There was an old pier off of Santa Monica, who knows, 80 years ago. Can we resurrect that pier? Can we bring in some type of a barge, a la Gaza, and
Hmm.
store supplies and try and increase efficiencies by leveraging this barge? It was just like,
Yeah.
and a lot of things that the Palisades is not a city. We're not incorporated. We have no power. So all the power lies within the mayor's office. So it's like all these people without product knowledge and without power trying to come up with these solutions. And anyway, so I met Kambiz. I was like, okay, he's actually a builder. He's level
Right.
he's level-headed. He just seemed like I clicked with his perspective and approach, and like interest in like being pragmatic, but also taking steps forward and not getting like in this loop of conversation, right?
Mm.
So wanting to take action. And so that's why we gravitated towards one another. And I think, we both have kids. We love the Palisades. We're similar age. So anyway, both entrepreneurs. So yeah, we clicked immediately.
Kambiz, I'm curious from a builder's perspective in the early days when all these ideas were being thrown around, were you thinking that some of these have merit, or were you thinking like some of these things are way off the mark? And I guess this also extends to a larger topic and question of, because of the magnitude of what occurred, and it does put everyone in a new place. This is unprecedented. I think it's easy for everybody, especially those who don't have any experience in the industries, to start grasping at alternative forms of construction, or alternative forms of building, or alternative whatever, which on paper do make sense, but also in reality, the complexity of building a house to begin with is so high that I've always kind of generally wondered, if you have ultra tight budget, ultra tight schedule, I don't know if that's the type of project parameters that allow you to like try something new that's never been done before.
There's that, and there's also, so back to your question, what you were asking. Yes, and I like to brainstorm. I like to think outside the box, but then, then you got to bring it down to reality, right? So like think outside the box, throw out some crazy ideas, and then think about it a little bit, and then kind of narrow it down to what actually makes sense. The issue was these same ideas were kept bringing over and over, and even to this day are still being brought up. And, I knew as a builder that lived locally and have friends that are builders that build locally here, some of these ideas just don't make sense. You had other builders and developers in that room, but these guys were big players. They do 400 unit developments, home developments, or they do high rise buildings, and that's a different
Master
animal.
plan communities.
Yeah, that's one builder doing one project. Here we're going to have thousands of builders doing thousands of projects, and so we have to think that way. We have to think super, hyper local, hyper, in that small space. I mean, a lot of these people didn't understand that if you're building in the alphabets, and you have a trash bin on the street and a car parked on the other side, you're not going to get a concrete truck going through through that street. So it's these little things that they need to think about. The concrete plant, for a minute, I thought, okay, maybe that makes a little sense. Then you ran through the numbers and logistics of, how many truck trips are you actually saving, and how many truck trips is it going to take to even build the plant? And what is your net?
Right.
And the net was really zero, probably. And that's for supplying and building it. So again, these ideas at that point were like, okay, moving on. That's not a good idea. Let's move on. There was talk about workforce housing. One of the people in that room said, I'm going to flatten my lot. I'm going to pave it. I'm going to put trailers there. I'm going to rent it to contractors to have their workers live there. And I just said, in my head, and then eventually I actually spoke up, but in my head, I'm like, none of my workers, I built here in Los Angeles, all over, want to live stay in the Palisades while they're building. They want to go back home to their families. And two, if I'm the neighbor that just spent millions of dollars building my home, do I want to live next to a lot that has trailers on there that has, workers living there? So it's just, again, it was an idea and reality, and they just didn't match.
I forgot about the trailer ones. Yeah. I used to be.
By the way, that's still on the survey that Pacific Palisades Community Council sent out, asking people, what do you think of this? There was even a conversation about using our recreation center to provide hot meals to workers. I said, it doesn't work that way. They got the food truck that comes. They don't want to leave the site. The builder doesn't want them to leave the site and waste time. It's not reality.
Yeah, Frank, you were going to say something, I think.
Oh, well, yeah. Well, I mean, I used to be in the pipeline business for oil and gas, and we would have man camps because, you'd have these explosions of oil and gas plays and with no housing. So the oil and gas industry would build out all these camps. But I mean, it is like, you do not, I mean, the drinking, who knows what else is going to be happening all night long. Like, it was just like, no, this is a horrendous idea. And then also, there was we were almost brainstorming based on the assumption that this case was like a master plan community, like Kambiz mentioned, where there was one landowner. And so when you're making decisions, you don't, you get one landowner that owns 200 acres to buy in, and then the project moves forward. So, but our situation is we've got 5,000 landowners, right?
Yeah.
And they're not connected. They all have different timing. They all have different driving forces, budgets, some people are concerned. Everyone's got their own concerns, right? So taking that into account, it was like, how do we solve this? And I felt a lot of times it was, we were forgetting about that component. It was, hey, this is how you build at scale. Let's go get Lennar Homes, and we're going to build 5,000 homes. It's like, oh, well, wait a minute. We've got 5,000 independent owners, and they might have a opinion on how this moves forward. So let's pump the brakes. But anyway, we were able to connect and make some great friends and contacts there within the groups, and kind of slowly pull out and say, okay, well, what can we do to affect change immediately? What is the problem of the day? Let's solve it. Can we solve it with a software? Can we solve it with a phone call, with an email? Let's solve it. And then we just started building this thing, essentially on the fly. So I don't know if you wanted to transition to that topic next, but
yeah. So after some of this time went by, what was the problem of the day that you guys saw?
Well, I mean, we had insurance, but at the beginning, it really wasn't insurance. It was uncertainty. It was, how do I file an application with FEMA? How do I file an application with SBA? Where do I find SBA? Where do I find FEMA? You were talking about the Army Corps of Engineers. Okay, they're going to clear my lot. Well, what does that mean? Are they going to make it? Are they going to take a deduction from my insurance policy that's going to put me in a different position that I'm not aware of 12 months from now? Where can I find answers? That was really the beginning challenge. And you had all of these different community groups sprouting, and basically helping connect. But they're all on different platforms, from Slack to WhatsApp to Nextdoor to various community apps to websites. So everyone was just mass confusion, right? And again, this whole thing, we are an outlier in the city of Los Angeles. We are part of the city of Los Angeles, but we really don't have much support, right? It's a huge city. We are just a little dot of, mostly affluent white people, and, no one really gives a shit, right? And I get it. There's a lot of challenges across the city. And so we're trying to come up with solutions ourselves. And mind you, we have no elected officials. So you've got individuals positioning to be a leader, and when you take that within a community like the Palisades, where you have a lot of alpha personalities, where everybody has accomplished something, everybody is in a position of leadership at their company for the most part. It's like, okay, well, who are the soldiers, and like, who are the generals? We got a lot of generals, So.
Right. Which is the more you need. It's just interesting. So, was there a?
The more I talk about this, it sounds like a very sexy TV show that we should be creating.
Actually, yeah,
it's coming.
In retrospect, I'm sure there will be a TV show or a movie about all this in the future. There's almost no doubt about it.
Yeah.
But I was going to ask, so, in the earlier months, was there a clear sense that the community as a whole, or in general, was wanting to have like one clear leader and structure for everybody, or was everyone split? I know everyone was split off in these various channels, and I'm always wondered about how, and again, in the early ones, like how information was being spread. How would you know as a resident what channel to trust and not trust? If there's no one at top, should there be someone at top? I don't know.
And that was the thing. I mean, so you name the group, and I'm part of it in terms of all these different community activists. You've got the Pacific Palisades Recovery Council Coalition. Sorry, you've got Pali Strong. You had Team Palisades. So at one point or another, I am or was part of these groups because I really wanted to see which one is going to be the most. It was almost like finding out which one's going to be the most effective in trying to get things done. And they each had their pluses, but it still didn't check the box of what I was looking to do. And maybe it's just me having that entrepreneurial mind frame where, if a day goes by and something doesn't get done, I'm not satisfied. So it was, I don't like a lot of talk. I want action. And so to be honest, I just wasn't seeing enough action. And again, maybe I'm just young and inexperienced when it comes to these types of things, but I know when
You're
it
not
comes
that
to
young,
building. Well,
You
I
look
should say-
young. You look very
I should
young and
say
handsome.
relative to the other people in these groups. I should
Sure,
say,
sure.
maybe.
Yeah.
But it was just a a frustration for me of things not getting done. And I even say it to this day, and I say it to the mayor's deputy who we have contact with. I say every week that goes by that a decision is not made or things are not made for better for the Palisades families to rebuild and come back is another week that 2 or 3 families have decided to move on and not come back.
Yeah.
And that's painful. That's painful for someone who's lived here 15 years, who's raised 3 kids here, who's active in the sports community here. This was a town in the middle of a metropolitan city of Los Angeles, but it really felt like a neighborhood. It felt, you go to our local sushi spot, Pearl Dragon, on a Friday night, and you knew everybody at every single table, whether you coached their kid, whether you went to preschool with them, whether your kids go to elementary school with them. Like, this town was an amazing place to live in and to raise your kids in. And maybe it's my eagerness to want that back that's making me do this or giving me the drive. And maybe I'm being naive and not realizing that it's never going to be the same, but I'm still going to try my best.
What you said earlier, I think, is the challenges of let's say, group projects. Like, we've all been part of group projects where no one's quite sure who's in charge, and someone is in charge. We don't know if they really should be. And it's very easy for these group projects or these groups that we're talking about to kind of lose momentum, because you really need someone like the two of you at the top of what you're doing to be, smart, intelligent, but also like really on top of it and have endurance. That's the other thing too, is, we're October now. This is going to continue. Like, anyone who's trying to do something, you got to have endurance over the course of years for sure. And that's not, practical for a lot of people, I feel like, I suppose. So when was Pali Builds started officially, or when you guys got together and started talking, like, what were the initial conversations? Like, how murky was it? Did you know it was going to be a website, essentially, more or less? Did you have any inkling as to what it would turn into?
Frank, if it's okay, I'll start and you could finish up. But,
Sure.
So Frank and I, after those initial few meetings, would keep talking. And to be honest with you, we were looking, into a business, whether it was a drywall business or something like that, to be able to also provide some kind of service for this rebuild. So that's initially how we kind of connected. And then it rolled into what else could we do to this community to help. And I was actually on vacation in Croatia, and Frank sends me this link of the website he created with the permit data and the sales data. And I just text him back. I'm like, this is genius. This is amazing. And And so I'll let Frank take it from there. But it really was just Frank doing it on his own while I was on vacation, and he sends me the link, and I was like, this is genius. This is really genius. Because just take a step back, my daughter actually started a campaign where she's a junior in high school. These are kind of important years in their life, and she kept saying, "Is that person coming back? Is that person coming back?" And I kept telling her, "I don't know. I really don't know." Like, we're driving down streets. She remembers these friends, and she's like, "Is that person coming back? That person?" I said, "I don't know, Charlotte. I really don't know." And so she started a campaign where, all these yard signs were being placed everywhere by contractors and other people. And so she started a yard sign campaign that says, "This home will rise again." And so she got the word out. She got people to respond. And if they were planning on rebuilding, we went and posted a yard sign on their property, basically saying, "This home will rise again." And, to show people, hey, this neighbor's coming back, that neighbor's coming back, to give people a little bit of hope. So Frank just took it to the next level, that idea, and he just took it to the next level.
It's
So
a great
Frank, I'll let
idea.
you take it from
That's
there.
a great idea.
Okay.
smart.
Well, thank you. Thank you. So yeah, I had built an application a few years ago that I'd spent a few years on, called Neighbor, and then it pivoted into So Neighborly. But initially it was, hey, let's take building permit data and help homeowners find out who their neighbors had hired. So we can provide quantitative data, as opposed to Sally in Thousand Oaks said that they're super awesome, So that's so I had built that, and I had dealt with, I had to manually pull building permit data from cities. We did 50 cities and millions of contractors and records. And anyway, so it was kind of a no-brainer for me. I was like, okay, well, I can do this in my sleep. It was, I'll be honest. I mean, I didn't mention it to my wife because we both still have PTSD from that experience of building an application for years and then it ultimately not working out. But anyway, so yeah, so I put it together, mapped out basically all the projects and who the contractors are that are working on the homes, and then brought in the sales data so that people could get an idea of, who are buying these lots, right? Is it some developer that's going to come in? Is it an individual? Are they institutional investors? Because as we look forward and make decisions about how do we want to come back, we're thinking, well, what's the Palisades going to look like? Is it going to be the Truman Show? Is it going to be some master plan community? And is it going to be the community that I remember, right? Because remember, there's no leadership that's guiding us. It's every man for himself. And to answer your question earlier, yes, there still is a massive hunger for one unified group that can disseminate information, guide people, help people. But there's just there hasn't, like Kambiz said, there's not a group that has cemented themselves as being that one group. And a lot of the groups bring a lot of different individual benefits and pros to the table, and to consolidate them, you might lose some of those benefits. But anyhow, so that's how it came to be, and it kind of just took off immediately. It was, listing who the owners were, who the buyers were, breaking them down into individual owners versus entities. In the beginning, I was going down to the county building and literally pulling title on these properties. And anyway, everyone, we were just so hungry for information. What is going on? What is happening? And so Pali Builds was just it was a source that had real meat on the bone. It wasn't it wasn't a website with fluffy headlines but didn't really do anything, or coming soon. It was like, okay, here's the data. This is how many people are building. these are the builders that are building those projects. And then these are the lots that have transacted, and these are the people that are buying them. So that was initially what we were providing. And then, Kambiz, I couldn't do this without Kambiz, obviously, because I'm not a builder, right? So like we're getting, I don't know how many. We've got hundreds and hundreds, maybe thousands of inbound inquiries from property owners saying, hey, do you know of a person that does site surveys, or how do I get a bid, or who can do testing for? I need toxicity testing. I'm getting a bid from one company to do toxicity testing that looks like A, and they're saying that we should do A, B, and C, and then I'm getting another bid from another company that's saying, no, we should do these things. Who do I believe? Who do I trust? So we're answering all of these emails, and fortunately, Kambiz is a builder, so he knows all this stuff, knows how to build, knows how to vet various different types of contractors, and what the steps are that you need to take, before you even talk to a general contractor. Don't go get a bid if you don't have the plans, because that bid is it's going to be bogus, right?
Yeah.
So it was this just real, invaluable information that Kambiz brought to the table. But anyway, so that's how it started, and then, like I said, it was like, the topic or the challenge of the day would shift. First, it was about getting the soil reports. Should they test for 3 inches deep or 6 inches deep, or everything would get granular, and then it would shift to another one. What's an Xactimate report? My insurance company's sending me this 80-page thing, and they're saying that it costs $300 to rebuild. I don't know what to do. So we just started trying to identify the biggest problems of today, and then trying to create a solution for them. And sometimes there was a solution that was maybe a software solution. Sometimes it was a directory solution where they could find and search for the right type of professional. Other times it was literally Kambiz or I, like, responding via email or phone call and trying to help out,
Yeah, I almost feel like my wife's a therapist, so it just felt like we were almost having therapy sessions with people about dealing with their trauma and what the next steps are. We connected some people with architects. We connected them with soil engineers or site survey companies, and so it was really initially just kind of like, how can we help you? How can we, and from this, which was great, was we were getting people that were maybe in the plan check process and were running into an issue. One gentleman reached out and said, hey, I need to get this grading permit, but the plan checker is telling me I need to post a 30-day notice to my neighbor before I can get the permit. And he's like, I don't have a neighbor. They don't have a structure. Why do I need to do this? And so, through the connections that we made, was able to reach out to the head of building and safety. I said, hey, people are having this issue where they have to wait 30 days to pull a permit because of something that really doesn't make any sense. And he's like, no problem. I'll send an email out to all my plan checkers right now, letting them know to waive that. So it was great to be able to hear people's issues and actually go real time and solve them. And honestly, that's what we were looking to do. We weren't looking to hear someone's problem, then go create a committee on how to solve that problem, which would take 6 months to resolve and go to, it was just, that's what we wanted to do. We wanted to solve problems as they come. Like I told people, if we need to help you get one permit at a time, that's what we're here to do, to try to get you guys your permit so you can start building. So it was gratifying.
It's almost like there was a need for like a kind of like a hotline, right? Like a place where people could just contact and get some answers right away or some guidance. And, we've had a lot of phone calls with people from the Palisades who were looking to rebuild or wondering if they should or what the process looks like. And a lot of those conversations are mostly just educational and explaining to them like how things work.
Yeah.
And when we think about it, none of those residents decided to embark on a project or selling their lots. Like, they didn't have the choice. Like, the choice was made for them.
Yeah,
like,
they weren't like, I'm going to go do this. I'm excited.
They were not
I saved all my
excited
money
to
do it.
build a new house and have to deal with all this stuff. So it's kind of like, okay, the situation was forced upon them, but they have to understand how everything works to really decide like which route to go. And it's awesome that there is, platforms like yours and, like ours too, like where we're trying to combine as much as we can and respond to people as efficiently as possible, because you're right, if there isn't one place where they can go, then how are they going to move forward? Like, it's going to take years.
Yeah. And that's the thing, the before the fire, people that wanted to rebuild, they educated themselves before they started the process. So they knew kind of what to do and before they started the process. This is like they're thrown into the fire and they've got to learn. They've got to learn on the fly. And so, yes, that's what we tried to do. And you've got building a safety website. You've got other websites out there, but it's not a layman's version of, okay, step 1, go get a site survey. Step 2, do your soil study. It's just, there's nothing out there like that was going to say, here, let me hold your hand and walk you through this process.
And even the access to, technology. I mean, we had people who reached out in their 80s and 90s, and I'm like, they want to rebuild. And I'm like, wow, and like, where do they start?
It's impressive, but
like,
also
it's impressive, but also like there's no support system for them to figure that out. So,
and in a lot of cases, not a lot, I shouldn't say a lot, but some cases, when we're talking to folks, I have to put on the table the very real potential outcome of should you even be rebuilding at all, which is contradictory since considering we're an architecture office.
Right.
We're not trying to convince people not to work with us, but that is a real question for folks in this particular situation. Like, should you be rebuilding? Because no one should be embarking on a project if in the end it's not the right path, for sure. I mean, I know Kambiz, you know this for for personally, because it's these projects take a long time, a lot of work, a lot of stress. It's a marathon, and to be honest, not every person is really set up or designed to be taking on a custom house. If we're talking about custom houses,
and that's part of it. It's should you, and the next part of it is can I, and that's what we're seeing right now is, you have a ton of people that are still dealing with insurance. I tell everybody that there's kind of 5 groups of people in terms of the rebuild. You have the people that had, newer homes that already had their plans done. They're not looking to go bigger because they already had a pretty decent sized house. So they're gung ho. Those are probably most of the permits that are being pulled now. You've got the next phase that knows that they're going to rebuild, have started the process with the architects and are going down that road. You've got the next group that's still dealing with insurance, and they're trying to figure out how much am I going to get from insurance and what's it realistically going to cost to build. So they're reaching out to a bunch of builders right now saying, hey, what is the cost to rebuild, so that once they get their number from insurance, they can see if there is a gap, how to bridge that gap, and if they can afford to move forward. And so that brings up the subject of what does it cost to rebuild. And I know, there's a lot of people out there with some pretty inflated numbers. And as a contractor, I'm trying to provide the best information I can to these people to say, hey, sure, you can get over $1,000 a square foot, but you're putting in gold-plated items at that point. Like, you can build a home, for a modest price without, and you will have to make modest choices, but
all right, we got you back. All right, so we'll pick up where we left off. The last thing you said was that you can build for a modest price, but you'd have to make modest choices.
Correct. And so at these initial meetings, these numbers of $1,500 were being thrown out, and I'm like, where are these numbers coming from? Sure, I mean, maybe some crazy mansion, maybe you're spending $1,500 a foot, but for a normal 2,000-3,000 square foot house in the alphabets or market as Knowles, you should be able to build it for half that. And so, again, it's really educating people on these numbers, on what the range is. Even architects' fees. You guys have different ways of charging. It could be a flat fee, it could be per square foot, it could be on a percentage, right? So it's educating homeowners on all these different ways that you can rebuild.
And on the construction cost note, and it's fine also if you don't want to give a direct answer, but what do you typically see as being like the lower end number that's a minimum to have a house that's custom, meaning that the person that's being designed and built for is going to live there for a long time, as opposed to a spec house, which is done purely for profit. And let's imagine in this example, the spec house is being done by a developer who doesn't care so much about quality. I'm trying to like draw that line there, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I think if someone's telling you under 600 a foot, I would question that. On the other end, if they're telling you over 1,000 a foot, I would question that.
Yeah.
I think the numbers should fall in that range between 600 and 1,000, which is a lot. But I also try to break it down. I say, hey, you know, a shell will cost you X, and the rest is going to be finishes. So take that number, figure out what kind of finishes you want, and then that's really where your number is going to end up.
And also, you know, within the Palisades itself, I mean, it's a lot of hillside properties. You've got basements to take into account, you know, retaining walls. So Kambiz, you want to touch on the different types of properties and how that affects the price?
Yeah, and that's a solid point. That's, you know, the numbers that I'm throwing out are assuming just a typical flat property in the Alphettes, Marquez Knolls, or other areas. Yes, you definitely have a ton of different topography throughout the Palisades. You've got soil and landslide issues in a lot of different areas. Not to mention you have to go through coastal in some areas. So yes, that number can definitely jump depending on how complex your foundations are going to be. I mean, there's an area, Castellamare area, which is a lot of hillside, and you had homes that were built without caissons, smaller homes, but now if they want to rebuild, they're going to have to put caissons. So now you're stuck with having to do a rebuild with caissons, and now your numbers are definitely going to jump. So that's some difficult situations people are dealing with as well.
I guess one of the things that I think makes all of this challenging, once someone decides they're going to rebuild or they're trying to figure out these numbers like we're talking about, is that there's so many different ways that a house can be done. We were talking the other day that there's, let's say even we zoom out even further, you know, doing the traditional route, traditional meaning is there's an architect and a contractor and maybe a designer as separate entities. That's one track, but then you have design build as another, then you have prefab as another, and between those three, there's like a massive amount of gray area between those and within those, and the amount of variation that exists makes everything complex. And so one of the things I've been thinking about this in general with our industries, because it's tough to convey all the information concisely, but I also wonder for the fire victims, if over the course of the last 9, 10 months, whatever, if they've been just hit with or sought out so much information that it becomes difficult to like process it all, and also difficult to know who to trust because it's all new. So if we're talking about construction costs or architecture stuff, the guy who says it is a minimum of $1,000 per square foot. Another person says I can do a quote high-end house in quotes for $400 a square foot. And an architect is $30,000. Another architect is $150 or $200. You know, for homeowners, it's like, but this is all kind of weighted equally, right? Because it's Sally from Thousand Oaks or whatever you said. She's trustworthy. So is, this other person. And I feel like that's the issue.
And it's all about finding the right match. I mean, every resident has a different situation, like you mentioned, between their insurance, their lifestyle, what makes sense for them at this time. Maybe, prefab is great for them, or maybe they should go the traditional route. And it's hard for them to know which route to take because they need to have an understanding of each of them in order to make the right choice. So it's
the details. So I guess to frame all of that as a question is, earlier you were talking about Pali Builds, and what I really love about it is that it's, first of all, really well done. It's a high performing website. It's not some thing you click on, buttons don't work. The information is clean and it's real information. But then also you guys had been or are currently, I'm not sure, pairing it with these like phone calls. And so I guess one of the things I was wondering is, you know, if you have an hour or half hour phone call with somebody, you can really get into the weeds and help them out. But that's a lot of time. That's a massive amount of time on your end. And so I guess scalability is like kind of part of the question. Like, how does that? Are you just on the phone like 12 hours a day, the both of you, or like how does the problems get solved when it scales to a point where it's thousands of people calling?
Or do you have 30 phone operators in the room next to yours?
Right.
Picking up the
Are they on the other side of the camera?
We have a call center in Manila, and they've been fantastic. No, you know, and I'll say even for us, we're also asked about, well, you know, who do you trust, or who's good, or do you know this person? And we're, you know, a lot of times we're in the same position where we're like, you know, we don't necessarily want to vouch for anybody.
Yeah.
I mean, this is you know, building a home, it takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of skill. There's a lot of people involved. So, you know, and it's difficult, and individuals need to vet their contractors or architects themselves, right? So sometimes we're not even really, I feel like sometimes I'm not even giving an answer. I'm just saying, you know, I don't have a silver bullet to tell you how to navigate it. I can tell you the steps, but you're really going to need to find people that resonate with you. And you know, you kind of have to do your own due diligence. I can tell you some people that have been trusted in the neighborhood for years and that I think highly of, but you know, at the same time, you've got people that are at capacity, and we haven't really even started to get up and going yet, you know? So, I mean, you know, there are builders or architects or subcontractors that they only want a certain amount of work, or, you know, because once you exceed a certain limit, your threshold, oftentimes the value of the product or service that you're delivering diminishes, right? Yeah. And most of these people take a lot of pride in what they do, so they're not willing to do that in order to squeeze out a few dollars a year. But I may have gone on a tangent there. I apologize. But go ahead, Kambiz.
No, I mean, but you know, you bring up a good point, and that's kind of, you know, that's the point of, I'm trying to get these newsletters out on a weekly basis, and it's trying to help them, you know, every step of the way. And so the next newsletter we want to send out is about how to select the right architect, and these are the things you should look for. So yeah, you know, people ask us to give referrals or this or that, and we can give referrals, but what we're really trying to do is educate more. You know, I as a contractor will send out a newsletter that's going to say, these are the things you should look for in a contractor. These are the things you should check, the references, you know, check you know, this is how much deposit you should give. These are the things you should look for in the contract. So we're really trying to educate more than vet or refer people out. And like for architects, I tell people all the time, I say, listen, and I say, you know, an architect is someone that you're going to work with for the next 2 years very intimately. Like I equate it to being married to them for the next 2 years, because you really are. You're going to have ups and downs. You're going to have arguments. You're going to have, you know, it's you guys are building a baby together. And so, yeah, that's really, you know, for architects, I say you just got to have a good rapport with them. It's going to be someone that you're happy to talk to and okay taking criticism, giving criticism. So again, these are the things that we're trying to do, not necessarily tell this person, go with this architect, go with that contractor. It's look for this before you choose the right person.
I love it. That makes a lot of sense.
And David, to your question, I'm trying to bring it back here. So, you know, Kambiz just did a newsletter on breaking down the primary paths that people typically take in building a home, right? You know, it's great. Our relationship's great because I don't know much about building. And so I'm able to say, hey, you know, he might write something or say something, and I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. You need to you know, you need to bring it down, even treat me like I'm a fifth grader. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Because I want to understand. So like you're talking about they're talking about the traditional route of finding an architect and then finding a contractor versus going with the design build, one-stop shop, you know, and what is that? What does that look like? Or looking at modular, prefab, solutions. What is that process like? Who are the players that you have to hire in order to go that route?
Yeah.
And then Kambiz was talking about the price per square foot. Does that include everything? Does that include the architect, the soft costs, the permitting? Because look, this is a challenging road to travel in a vacuum. When you layer on the fact that you've moved your kids or your family, or you've lost your heirlooms or what have your whole house, your life, and then you layer on you're dealing with your ninth estimator with your insurance carrier. They have asked you for everything under the moon. You've provided it, and then they've given you some bullshit reason, to go in another direction. And then, oh, by the way, I'm no longer going to be your estimator. You're now going to be dealing with Jimmy. You'll meet him tomorrow. These people are beaten down. They're vulnerable. They are beaten down. We have people contact us saying, the other day a woman was like, I am a strong woman. And I pride myself on being a strong woman. And I was in tears with my estimator yesterday. Like, he broke me, and it's like, so that's the lens from which these people are looking through, and then trying to tackle all of this path. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. It's just, it seems insurmountable for a lot of people, unfortunately, and maybe it is for some. Mm-hmm. But yeah. So and we need to do a better job of educating people about the different options, because, like, I, as a consumer, when I see design build, I sometimes will see builders that are like, well, I'm a traditional builder. Go find an architect and give me the plans. And then I see some design build, we're one-stop shop. And then I see this hybrid. Be like, well, I can be a design builder, or I can be just a general contractor. Which do you prefer? And I'm like, well, that seems, kind of opportunistic. Like, I want someone that's picked a lane, and has conviction in what they're doing. But anyway, so yes, we're still, and I'm still learning about the differences between going the different routes. And, if I hire an architect, do they have specific contractors that they will work with? And what's that relationship like? If I hire a builder and they refer me to an architect, what's that relationship look like? Mm-hmm. Like, I, along with the property owners, are trying to get some transparency, some knowledge, and find some trustworthy people so we can navigate this incredibly challenging thing.
I've remarked in general, so outside of the fire rebuild effort, that I think the biggest challenge the AEC industries, architecture, engineering, and construction and design, face is education, is providing good, unbiased information about how things work in a manner that is digestible for the average person. And that's something that I frankly think about very often and admittedly struggle with. That's why our podcast is so fucking long, because it's like there's so much to talk about. Yeah. And of course, from my side, from the insiders, like, I would want, I don't expect an average person to know everything I know, but even if we boil it down to the key bits of information, it's still a lot to know when we consider, at the macro level of these three different paths, and everything splinters off differently. Design build, like you said, is done a bunch of different ways. Even traditional methods of project execution with an architect are done 100 different ways. Like, what is your architect actually doing? Are there renderings? Are there interiors? Are they selecting stuff? Like, it's crazy. And so, I mean, I don't know. I guess it's just me saying that I really, really applaud what you guys are doing, because it's really hitting the nail on the head. And I think actually, X years from now, when we look back on all of this will be, the fire rebuild effort will be kind of like a case study, like a like a hyperized version of the challenges of building a house anyway, but like condensed with a lot more at stake.
Yeah, and you have like the Thomas James of the world, which I think is its own category. Right?
Yeah.
True.
Because that's really not a design build. Right? I mean, they have.
It's like a pre-designed.
It's a pick and build.
Pick and build. Yeah. Oh yeah, category 4, pick and build.
Yeah, exactly.
Is that a real term?
No, I just no. That sounds good to me.
That sounds good. It is now.
It is now.
And that's attractive to a lot of people, right? Like, they do what they do very well. I mean, they've been able to scale national. So anyway, I agree.
But it's a good point though, because I mean, people are so burned out by what they're going through, dealing with insurance, dealing with whatever, the trauma, that like, a solution is someone like a TJ Holmes that they could just say, fine, I take that plan. Here's my, deposit, go. So I don't blame anybody for, I really don't blame anybody for choosing whoever they want to choose.
Right.
And like I tell everybody, I'm a contractor. I'm happy to build your home. And I tell my good friends this all the time that are looking to rebuild their homes. I say, if you find another contractor that can do it for you and you're happy with them, that's all I care about, is that you guys have found someone good, you want to come back, and you're going to do it quickly, because that's all I care about. So I'm here for, to help you guys however I can. And so same thing, if you want to go prefab, if you want to go pick and build, if you want to go design build, whatever floats your boat, go for it, do it. Let's just do it and get back. That's it.
Amen.
And it's also to one of the points I think you both brought up is that the solution really varies depending on a person's situation and the million things that they're having to consider.
There is not a one size fits all. No,
absolutely
case,
not.
Definitely
there shouldn't be, and there shouldn't be anyway, because we talked about that, in another episode. Rebuilding the Palisades, it's not just rebuilding one house after another. It's rebuilding the neighborhood, right? So there shouldn't be one type of house that applies for 7,000 homes that were burned.
Not for your water.
Yeah.
Like you said, it's not a master plan done by.
Yeah, we need the mixity, we need the variety of architecture, language, and sizes and colors, and we need that back.
But of quality.
And that was the beauty of the Palisades pre-fire, was that you could have a 4,500 square foot McMansion in the Alphabets next to a 1,500 square foot house that had been handed down for 4 generations. And so that was the variety, that was the flavor of the Palisades, was that you could have, I tell everybody, it's not the homes that made the Palisades, it was the people. And so you had the 4th generation living there next to the new family that just bought that 4,500 square foot house. So that was the beauty of the Palisades. And so, again, if they want to go prefab and if they want to build a 4,500 square foot house, go for it. Give it some variety, give it some flavor. And that's exactly what you said. I mean, that's what Palisades was before, and that's what it will be going forward, because everybody is in a different situation.
Right.
So you did mention that you guys are going to issue a new newsletter with the latest data. Can you give us kind of an overview as to like where things are out right now? Like how many lots have you seen, permit issued and construction started, or how many lots have been sold or for sale, just so people kind of have an idea of what's going on?
Sure.
I think so. Because I haven't even seen the data. We received it yesterday for September. So go ahead, Kambiz.
So we're still deciphering the data on the building permits, because we get it at the beginning of the month, and then we have to go through it. So our numbers show 79 permits issued for the month of September, which correct me if I'm wrong.
You mean August,
Frank? What this is the data that we get for September?
Right, but so the one that you're talking about the data we haven't released.
We haven't released September yet.
Correct.
But
so you're saying it's 79?
It's 79, but I think that's pretty close to what it was in August. It feels like we're plateauing a little bit, but I feel like it is these numbers that with the permits that are being pulled now are the people that had homes recently built or recently designed. And so they're essentially re-permitting the same one. So I feel like we are going to kind of have a plateau of kind of in this range for the next few months. I feel like the spike is going to start happening in the first quarter of next year when all these people that had maybe older homes, younger families that maybe want to build a newer, bigger home. So we will, and those people are going through the design process, the plan check process. And so I think beginning of next year is when we're going to see a bit of a spike in the permits pulled.
Additional context. So in terms of number of permits, in June, 29, July, 44, August, 76. And so we were hoping September was going to jump substantially, get into triple digits. That didn't happen, though. Like Kambiz said, I think we were around 79. And just so you know, there's a lot of reporting for permits that's done from the mayor's office and I don't know who else. But when we talk about permits, we talk about individual homes that have new building permits. So we're not counting a demo permit or, or someone putting in a new pool or something like that. These are new building permits only for individual addresses or unique addresses. So.
Gotcha. That's fascinating. I mean, I think also it's interesting because there's a few things everyone focuses on in creating a house, and construction cost per square foot is one of them. And to your earlier point, that doesn't include other soft costs though, which are significant. Right. And the other one, of course, is permitting. Everyone focuses on permitting. When is it pulled? How long it takes? Permit, which is obviously a very, very critical part of a project and can be extremely stressful. But at the same time, in this case, if you're doing, I would say, like a really, really nice custom house and you're working with an architect or a designer closely, like it takes months before you're ready for a permit. And I think that's part of a timeline that people are on the outside are not considering. So they're like, well, why aren't there more permits pulled, in August or June? It's like, well, if someone's hiring an architect, it takes somewhere between 6 to 12 months to get through design, and permits take place somewhere in there. Like and for folks who are new to this, they're like, why does it take so long? It's a different discussion, but it does take a long time. And so I could see your projection of the first quarter of next year being where things are starting to happen permitting wise, because that's the folks who've been working with an architect currently.
That's a great point, David. So, we only know what we hear, right? I mean, unless we can glean something from data from the city. So we know who's filing an application for a permit. We know which permits are getting issued. We know which contractors have been hired to perform those jobs. But other than that, it's about what we hear. So we hear about people struggling with insurance carriers and fighting with them to get the necessary amount of money they need to rebuild. But we don't hear people that are working with their architects. Right? Mm-hmm. There's not a driving force that would compel them to post on WhatsApp, post on Nextdoor, reach out to us, to say, hey, FYI, I'm working with my architect. You know what I'm saying? So I hope that there are tons of people that are in the process of working with their architects to design plans right now. I just don't know.
The other question I had is kind of zooming out, and I don't know, we can use specific numbers or just talk about it generally, but both of your feelings and kind of assessment on how many people are going to end up rebuilding, current residents who are going to rebuild and come back to the Palisades versus those who are leaving. Of course, it's like the big question everyone's asking, and no one really has an answer. But I would love to hear your thoughts.
Because the Palisades are going to get rebuilt one way or the other. Yeah. It's a matter of, are they going to get rebuilt by the resident that lost their homes, or are they going to get rebuilt by outsiders, let's call them? No, but it's...
No, I mean, look, it's a good point. And the initial month or 2 or 3 months after the fire, a lot of talk was like, oh, these developers are going to come in and scoop up these properties and this and that. And, initially you're like, oh, that's going to change the flavor of the Palisades. But listen, at the end of the day, it's inevitable. The evolution of the Palisades was going to happen. This just is speeding up the process. So, the elderly people that have been here forever that lost their home are probably, most of them are deciding not to come back. And so you'll have a new family coming in to take their place. So it's inevitable. It's inevitable the change is going to happen. My mentality now is, if someone's coming in to buy a property, a developer or an investor, as long as they're willing to build it quickly and not sit on it forever, that's just, and sell it, and a new family moves in, I'm fine with that. We're not protecting the Palisades from the outsiders, right? The Palisades is a beautiful place. The Palisades is a beautiful place, and if they want to come live here, I welcome them with open arms. And listen, there is going to be a portion of, there is going to be a 10, 20% of the Palisades lots that are never going to be rebuilt or going to be, could be decades before they're rebuilt, and whether it's someone just hanging on to it and passing it on to their kids, and they're just going to hang on to it. An interesting thing we're learning also on the people buying lots is people, especially in the alphabets, buying neighboring lots to either add on to their home, to add on to their yard space, to build a sport court, something like that. So that's actually interesting, information that we've gotten out of this, so that, the density might not be as high as it was pre-fire, but it's still the same family that's going to be living here. So just interesting things we're learning throughout this process.
I think that, I guess if you look forward, there's a few different scenarios. One, it's that individual property owners rebuild one at a time. Another scenario is that you could have some groups come in and purchase a large quantity of properties and build at once. I have heard of various groups that are trying to position themselves to do this, most of whom have good intentions, and their intention is to rebuild quickly and sell the lots. So, I don't know which is going to play out. I think that, yes, there will be a small percentage that maybe takes a long time, especially those that are around the coastline, where the economics are just like, they don't make sense. You'd have to have somebody that just doesn't care really, and they just want to build it for whatever price. But I do hear about groups that that want to come in and say buy 500, 1,000 lots or more, and try and build them at scale at a reduced cost, and then either give that home back to the property owner or sell it. Maybe split the profit with they would have bought the lot. But so there's all these there's different groups trying to position themselves to do these things as well. So long story short, I think that we could we could think that we're going down one path and it could change radically overnight, because most of them are pretty quiet. They're not advertising that they're gearing up to do these things, or building a board of directors, or raising capital. They're doing that behind the scenes. So I don't know how it's going to play out. I suspect it'll look different than Altadena, but I don't know.
Yeah. I
I'm
think
the same way. Yeah, go ahead.
When in this part of the conversation, when I've had it before with people, the kind of assumed position we all have is like, ew, developers building a bunch of stuff, ew, icky, bad. Which is it's for good reason that people have that concern, but it is going to be a mixture for sure. And hopefully the stuff that gets built back, whoever does it, is of at least a certain level of quality. But I also like the 2 points made earlier was, one, that the neighborhood was about diversity anyway, so you need this mixture, and two, Kambiz, you said that Palisades was about the people. And I think, as an architect, I focus on the buildings, but it's really that. So, if we have a 500, 200, whatever number of houses that are similar, kind of spread out or whatever they are, and they're decent quality, but we have good people there, then what the heck, that's good, especially when we have 7,000 or whatever the number is, properties that need to be rebuilt. Yeah. So I really like that idea that the community is about the people.
Yeah.
Listen, I live, sorry, Frank, but I live up in the Highlands area of Palisades, and, I'm lucky that our home made it. In our community, we have 300 homes, only one of them burned. And, my house has the same layout and design as our good friends that are 2 doors down from us. Now it's been remodeled multiple times over, both homes. But the point is, we have the same exact house, and it doesn't matter to us. Like, we enjoy them as a family. Our sons are best friends. It doesn't matter. It's about the people at the end of the day.
About community.
That's it.
Yeah. What I was going to say was, when people kind of stick their nose up at developers or whatnot, or it being super homogenous, I think that they are looking at the comparison of either, assuming that the option is you're going to have unique homes all unique homes and all the lots are built versus, having all the lots, having some developer homes or spec homes and unique homes. But the reality of the situation is, if you don't have the developers, you're probably going to have empty lots or land banking.
Yes.
So it's kind of a false comparison, unfortunately.
Yeah, we have a pre-designed house because we participated in the CS2 Case Study 2.0 program. And interestingly, some of the questions the question we get consistently from everybody interested is, I'm concerned that, my house will look the same as everyone else's. I'm like, the scale of that, I'm like, that is not going to happen. One, let's say somehow it did, we wouldn't let it because that's not my goal. I'm not interested in that. And I would want the house to be reskinned 1,000 times for everybody.
And the trends are pervasive. I mean, like the white farmhouse. I mean, how many of those do you see? I mean,
it's true.
Neighborhoods have their own
the Cape
trends.
Cod and it was there before. So again, the people complaining about it, I mean,
it was there. You just didn't really recognize it. So I know we're just past the hour. The final question for you both is what is next for you two and for Pali Builds?
We have been self-funding this since July and spending our full time doing this. Now, we would like to be able to afford to go back to the Palisades, or I would like to go back to the Palisades one day. And so that necessitates a revenue stream or income. So we have created some features to help out building professionals. Most of them are marketing oriented. We're going to help them basically get connected with property owners. We're going to help them we see an opportunity with trying to do some SEO features for them designed for the AI search engine world, because that has changed everything. And also provide some solutions to the businesses themselves. So that will be fee-based. But, also you were talking about looking at the Palisades almost like down the road, looking back at it as a case study. From a software perspective, this is also like a very rich sandbox to try and test different things, try and create new solutions. And, very rarely do you have this where you've got all of these eyeballs and users and traction where they're coming on so that you're able to present, A, B, C, D, all these different tools and see which ones they like, which ones they use, which ones are unnecessary, So we're going to continue to test different features and solutions, try and deliver value to property owners, try and deliver value to businesses that are in the construction industry, and grow and just do our best to try and make their lives easier. Ultimately deliver solutions better and faster. And so we're excited to see where that leads us, because we don't know.
Yeah, we're constantly evolving. It's like as problems come up, we're trying to see if we can create solutions. So, one of the new features on our site is Rent My Lot. That was actually a topic of conversation in those initial meetings too, was staging areas for builders. And, this conversation was, let's take Will Rogers Park and use it as a staging area for builders. And again, that didn't make sense because it was hundreds of builders and they don't want to park their materials in some off-site location with no security or anything. So, we've come up with a solution of Rent My Lot. So neighbors posting that they're willing to rent their lot in exchange for a monthly fee or some kind of bartering service of clearing my lot or fencing it and cleaning it up, so that builders could park and store materials on the neighboring lots to where they're building. That would ease congestion on the streets. We've got another new feature of Sell My Lot, where people are, posting their homes that want to sell for no fee. We try to connect buyers and sellers. So we're evolving as the needs of the community is evolving as well. So we're going to keep trying to keep up with that and see how we can provide solutions for the entire community.
I love it. It's phenomenal. Awesome. I think the approach is great. The two of you are awesome and have a tremendous amount of endurance in addition to expertise. But responding to the problems that way, I think, and quickly is just it doesn't happen often. So really, kudos to you both.
Well, then I think you're responding to the problem from the inside.
Yeah, from the inside.
Which is what's going to be, most powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we're boots on the ground. We literally know every in and out of this neighborhood or this community. So it definitely helps. It definitely helps the city officials too when we drive them down streets and say, hey, this is what you guys need to fix. This is what you need to look for.
And we're big believers in a private enterprise too. So being able to have solutions that can stand on their own economical merit and deliver value, I think you end up with better solutions and quicker solutions in that type of setup.
That's an incredibly good point, and that certainly ties into both of your entrepreneurial spirits. We have the same since we have our own office, so I fully agree with that. Yeah. Thank you so much for making the time on a Friday morning to chat with us. This was enlightening, and I hope we can continue the conversation.
Thank you so much, guys. Loved it.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for watching this video on YouTube. If you like what we're doing, then please support our show by hitting that subscribe button.
You can also find us on most of the social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We're mostly on Instagram. And you can reach out to the hotline, 213-222-6950. You can send a text message or leave a voicemail. If you have any reaction to this recording, any questions you might have, or guest suggestion, feel free to send it our way.
Cool. Thank you for watching, and see you next week.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye-bye.